Imagine building and selling 4 companies with referrals only. You're going to hear how it's done. What's up, FlowChat fam? Chris here, co-founder and CEO of FlowChat.com, bringing you real entrepreneurs that are getting real results. Today's guest has done exactly that, not just one time, not just 2 times, not 3, but he's built and sold 4 companies. And stay tuned all the way to the end because you're going to hear what he's now focused on next. If you want to get something done, find a busy person. That is who we're talking to today. I'm so excited personally, even just to hear dive into his story deeper because I don't even know what it is. So you and I get to discover this together right here, right now. And let's welcome Josh. Josh, how's it going, man?
Good, dude. That was a killer intro, by the way. Hats off to you. You've done this a few times.
Thanks, man. No, I first one. I just got it spun up and this is feeling good. No, I appreciate the kind words, dude.
You bet.
So we're I want to hear, like personally, just actually want to hear more about your story. And I usually, usually in these interviews, it always happens at the beginning, dude. I want to get right in to the juice and then learn a little bit more about the person. That's kind of how I like to flow. I didn't prep you with
Yeah,
that, but here we
tactics
go.
first, dude. That's what I'm all about. Let's do it.
Everyone
Right
listening,
to the
watching.
meat.
Yeah, dude, you're building these companies and they're valuable enough that somebody else actually wants to buy them. That's way harder than even running a company. And you're building them through referrals only. For everyone listening, watching, how can they build their company with just referrals?
Absolutely, dude. Well, the first and foremost thing is a lot of people come to me and the first thing that they're saying is, if I ask them like, what's your best lead source? Where do you get your best sales from? Oh, from referrals. This person sent this person to me. You're like, oh, that's awesome. So why don't you do more of it? Well, it's just kind of hard to make it predictable and consistent. I'm like, no, it's not. You just have to build a system around it. So, um, I'm going to shout out to FlowChat here because it's a great tool to be able to help kind of aid in this. But what we've actually found is that referrals and selling high ticket services through referrals is actually one of the easiest ways to build a company quickly because what people look for when they're trying to buy companies is it's actually profitability. And that's why I like high ticket because it gives you that opportunity to increase the margins really, really quickly. And you can get longer term contracts. And it's in my opinion, high ticket's the way to go if you're trying to sell a company. But getting referrals for high ticket is about the only way that converts consistently. And so what we've done, and we've built a system for this, is, and I'll give it away. You guys are welcome to have it. It literally just requires you vertically integrating with 5 people. And so what vertical integration means is it's literally looking for 4 to 5 other companies who they're serving the same need for a client in a different way. So for example, if you're a marketing agency who does lead generation, it'd be finding somebody who does SEO, finding somebody who's a copywriter, finding somebody who's maybe got some sort of, podcast production company or a media company. And what you can do is all of those people have the exact same client that you're looking for. And if you build a relationship with those people where you say, hey, if you'll commit to send me 2 people a week, I will send you 2 people a week. Okay. I know it sounds like oversimplification, but it's literally as easy as it is. You get 5 people to do this and you're going to land 10 referrals a week. Now we found from referrals, even if you just absolutely suck at selling, you'll close 1 out of 10. And so building a system like that, where you say, hey, I've got 10 people coming in every single week, you're going to get at least one sale. We've actually found with my company, it's 1 out of 3 because we learn how to sell and you get better at sales. But even if it's 1 out of 10, and you're selling a $10,000, $25,000 product, I mean, that's a $100,000 a year business or $100,000 a month business,
Yeah.
literally in a month, right? And go ahead,
No,
Chris. I don't
keep
want
flowing,
to.
keep flowing, keep
Okay,
flowing.
so I found that most people when they look at that, they're like, okay, yeah, Josh, that sounds easy. It's like, okay, it's extremely simple. Just nobody does it. And when you start to do this, what you'll find is those people will send you more than 2 because they'll go, wow, this person is like actually the guy in the space, right? So it positions you in a really solid place. We have a couple other strategies we use too. I'm happy to talk on those if you want, but that's basically like how everything starts is just finding 5 people who you can vertically integrate with and you run the play,
I love what
right?
you're saying. I want to highlight a couple things. Step one is find your key 5 that are collaborative type partnerships. They're serving the same person, the avatar customer that you do, but with a different product or service. It's a very clear, you said that very well. But the second piece is the key piece. It's commit to bringing them to referrals also. That's the offer that you're pitching them on. So what I hear, Josh, is someone listening to this is like, okay, well, I'm just trying to find business for me. Now I got to find business for more people. Why,
It's a
how do
great
you do
question.
it, and why is it worth it? I have some immediate thoughts, but I'm very curious to hear yours.
So I love this, and it's because you are literally the first person to ever ask me this, and I'm like, this should be the most obvious next question. Is like, okay, where do I get the people to send for other people? So this is what's really interesting. If you're meeting 10 people a week, right, and you've got some sort of simple system where you're meeting people consistently, so that could be, attending events once a month. It could be, using FlowChat, whatever it is. Like, you need to have some sort of simple outbound strategy. But if you've done that for any amount of time, most people don't realize they've probably got a network of something to the tune of 1,000 to 2,000 people that they could actually personally reach out to and refer over to somebody else. And what's cool is that this is why it's fun to kind of create an ecosystem around this, is that if you make these partnerships one at a time, and instead of trying to like bundle them all together, if you get 5 people to commit to you, they're all sending you people. And what will happen is if you're closing, let's say 1 out of 10, you still have 9 other people that you could refer back out to other people. Does that make sense?
Dude,
And
I
that's
love
kind
this.
of where this is the tier 2 step that I was like, if you want me to go into it, I can go into it. But the second step to this is that every time you're on a phone call, every time you need to be asking the person who you're sitting across the camera from for your next call. Okay. So what I do, this is actually my scripted template that we use for everybody, is if I'm on a call with somebody, I'm going to ask them, hey, you're really my ideal client. You're my ideal client because of this, this, and this, right? Maybe it's because you're a dad, you've got, a successful business, whatever. And so I'm kind of poking their status button and I go, okay, I want people just like you. Do you know anybody else like you that I should be meeting? And when you say that, everybody has a name in their head. And what's cool, and this is where the math gets bonkers and nobody believes me until they do it. But if you'll meet 10 people and do that practice, you won't just get 10 referrals, you'll get 15 at least. And so it actually exponentially grows if you commit to ask that question every time. And the cool part is you can literally do it in the last 30 seconds of the call. So if you're about to end the call, you say, oh, hey, 1 second, before you go, I'm looking to fill the next seat of my program with people exactly like you, people who are dads, who have a successful coaching business and blah, 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 right? Who else do you know? And half the time they'll be like, well, whatever. But then you're going to get 3 or 4 out of the 10 who are like, oh my gosh, dude, I have like 30 people I can send your way. And they do. And P.S. when the conversation's over, you can just reach back out to them and say, hey, do you have anybody else for me? Happy to reciprocate. You send me somebody, I'll send you somebody. We call it referral ping pong, but it's ultimately a very simple process that allows you to go from that first 10 to expand out. In fact, our last company that we did this with, we basically, in 30 days, we got them to where they were closing one $30,000 deal per week off of 10 leads. And then we had them do the one-up strategy is what we call it, where you're just asking for the next person. And they ping pong them back and forth, but it was a one-man band. And by month 3, he had to have 2 reps because he had too many referrals coming in. So he had to go in and he had enough flow, right? So I think there's other ways to stimulate this, but I think most people are just too lazy to do this and they'll try and like hire it out and everything. But you can take a company to $5 million by yourself doing this. Solid high ticket product or service, use referrals, sell 1 out of 10. It's literally just basic math. And that type of company, just so you know, coming back to the sales side, is one of the most appealing businesses because you can go in, get that person to systematize that process. So if you built, like if I was to buy that company, and somebody had a system like that, I'd say, okay, how do we systematize you and get you out within the next 30 days? And then that company's running like clockwork, right? And
I
it's not dependent
hope
on industry.
somebody is just jumping out of their seat right now listening to you, Josh. Like the way you articulated that and communicate, like, listen, that was phenomenal, man. Thank you for just sharing all
Thank
of
you.
that on the show that we're doing here. And this is the simple question: are you consistently asking at the end of every single call? Is your sales team that are doing calls, are they asking consistently at the end of every single call, yes or no? If the answer is
Yeah.
no, then you get to learn. Learning means that you heard something and you change. You're actually doing a new behavior because that proves that you learned something. And it looks
Yeah.
like at the end of your call, now asking that simple question in the exact framework that Josh just laid out. Josh,
Yeah,
I've heard this framework before, my friend. I've done this thing before, and we do ask for referrals, but I don't know that we're asking. I'm like, I'm gonna go back and go review some calls and make sure that we're asking because I was like, that's exactly how it works, especially when you find the best people. The best people are friends with all the best people. I don't know, it's just what they attract.
absolutely.
It's how it works. And I'd like to propose, actually, I want to get your take on this.
Yeah,
When now this does take time. This does take work. In
absolutely.
fact,
Yeah,
any way you want to acquire and grow a business, it's going to cost you both time and money. Every single path.
yeah.
There's no free easy dollar out there that I have found yet. This all being said, I want to compare the strategy that you described to any other strategy out there. If you really compare what you're saying to do, the time, the effort, certainly the CAC or the cost to acquire will destroy every other channel, period. Like it's not, if you
Yeah.
look at the numbers, you and I both know it's not even close. But can you speak to why it's so competitive and like how much time per week does it really take asking and like following up on referrals?
So this is what's an interesting question. So I'm going to kind of touch back on this because you mentioned this earlier about your sales team. We actually, with our sales reps, and when we're training up our clients reps, like we tell them, you're not going to be fired based on close rate unless it's just atrocious, right? If it's like 1 out of 100, then obviously, I mean, you're probably not cut out to do this. But it is a fireable offense if you don't ask for referrals. And changing that
Mm,
mindset actually increased our close rate dramatically with most of our sales reps, simply because they're focused on a different thing, which is I want to get to know this person and move on to the next person. And their job is to get that they're marketers and sales reps instead of just being sales reps. And then they can never complain about quality of leads because they're the ones who generated them. Does that make sense?
I
And
love
so
that. I love that.
like because if you've ever built a sales team before, it's usually like marketing is like salespeople suck. They are horrible at closing. And the salespeople
Yes,
like,
yeah,
man,
well, they
marketers
fight.
never give us good
It's
leads.
civil
We hate
war.
them.
It's civil
Yeah,
war.
it's war, man. But when you make them one and the same, the only person they can blame is themselves, right?
Dude, that's so good.
But so to answer your question though, is like, how much time does it take to do it? At the beginning, it's the CEO's job. Like it's the owner's job, in my
Mm,
opinion. Even in fact, we
mm.
had a company join the other day that he's doing something to the tune of like 17 to 18 million dollars a year, right? And he's been kind of stuck at that spot for a long time, entirely referral based, but they haven't really had a system for it. But he was kind of feeling like all high and mighty with it. And I was like, dude, you're the only one who knows who you could partner with, right? Nobody on your team actually knows this. But this is what's crazy, okay? If you were to break down the calls and say, okay, I've got to meet 10 new people a week, and that's the target, right? So I have to meet 10 new people a week and ask them for another referral. That's 5 hours worth of calls, right? 30-minute calls with each person, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then usually it takes another like 2.5 to do follow-up calls from those 10 to actually close the deal if it's a high ticket deal. But and some people it takes more calls than that. But anyways, the base number is about
Yeah.
7.5 hours of work from a calls perspective. But what's cool is once you've established your 5 partners, it takes a grand total of like 10 minutes a week. I'm not even exaggerating because it's just I text them every week saying, "Hey, who you have for me? Here's who I have for you," and it's just text back and forth. Does that make sense?
That's perfect. I just wanted a tangible number for everyone to hear that like what are we actually like talking about? It's like we're talking about sub 8 hours a week of
Yeah.
hyper qualified niche. Like if any of these people say yes, we're excited and only one of them needs to say yes. You're if you're listening watching this, you're probably already doing double the amount of hours and calls per week anyway. So
Absolutely.
this would probably end up
Absolutely.
saving you time. And then the texting and following up, like all that activity should be happening anyway. What we're talking about is hyper qualified and hyper revenue generating activity. Josh, I'd just like to say that you're doing such a phenomenal job on this interview so far. Is there
Thanks.
anyone else that you know of that would be a great
Yeah.
interview for the show?
I have like a list of 236 if you or
Ha-
267 if
See,
you
there you
want.
go.
So
It's working. Like, see, like
it already works.
that's how much time it takes. Okay, sorry, I just want to have a little fun there. All right, so Josh,
Yeah.
the referral only, you just gave the practical strategy to implement. The outcome is like at the end of the calls, are we using the word track? You just gave us yes or no, and if not, then we can implement that and immediately start getting more and more people. And guess what? When we get to 10, from like one of the people, we're going to go do the same thing with those 10. And I think that's the piece you were saying where it multiplies faster than you can
Yeah.
ever imagine. People don't real I'm glad you said that because people don't see that organic builds on itself faster than anything else. The speed of good trust, or what am I trying to say? Of just trust, goodwill. That's what I'm trying to say.
Goodwill.
Trust
Yeah.
and goodwill.
Good
Uh,
trust, dude. Yeah.
it's
Just
it's
TM it.
it's faster than like any paid ad campaign. And
Yeah.
so and there's multiple examples. Actually, Hermosi's in everyone's brain. So congrats, hats off to both the Hermosis are very impressive people. But Alex is articulating his book and his book sales. Like that's just one example in the market of what you're describing as taking off exponentially just from word of mouth. Okay, so we got to
Yeah.
cover some tactics, man. I want to hear more about your story. Let's shift gears into there. You've built and sold 4 companies now. Was your first company one of those 4, or were there any failures before those?
So actually, funny story. It actually was, and it was when I was a teenager. I built my first one was actually a window washing company, and
Nice.
it wasn't a huge exit, but it was literally I think we did I think 250,000. I think is what we got for that company,
Dude,
and
it's amazing.
I
And you
was
were a
18.
teenager? 18?
Yeah, I started. Yeah, I started when I was 11.
Smooth quarter million at
And
18, no biggie.
yeah, well, it was a cool deal. And that money was gone very fast. I'm not going to lie to you. So that's what I learned how to not spend money was around that time. But anyways, point being though is sold that company. That one was my first one, and then I actually served a mission for my church for 2 years, and so I was gone for 2 years, and then I came back
Where'd you
and
go?
southern Mexico.
Southern
So
Mexico. Oh, so you speak
yeah, like,
Spanish.
yes, very very well. it's
Nice.
it's been over a decade now, but I mean I'm sure I could still converse pretty well. But
That's awesome, man.
um,
Okay.
yeah, so that was a really formative thing. In fact, the one up strategy came from being a missionary, by the way,
Ah.
because they taught us is like, hey, if you never want to run out of people to teach, just ask this question, and it indoctrinated it so much in my head that yeah, we brought it into business, and it's worked really well. Um,
I'm not gonna lie,
but
man. When you say like, in some of my like other companies and sales teams I was a part of building, I would love it when like I could find like LDS applicants,
yeah,
because I was like, you will go door to door. I was like, you know what I mean? Like
zero fear.
people won't run
There's
away
nothing
from you. I
scarier
was
than
like,
door knocking.
let's go crush. Like
Yeah,
it's some great training. Anyway, continue.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's a really fun experience, and I honestly like I recommend it to anybody because it's the 2 most like formative years of your life. And for me, it actually did shape a lot of the way that I did like marketing and sales, um, and ultimately, like having built a company before that, I was um, because it was barely like a company, right? I mean, I didn't have it registered until I was 17, because you can't legally like have a business until you're 18, and so
Yeah.
we had to go through the whole process of handing it off to the next guy. But anyways, the point was that business was kind of I would say is probably my biggest transition point, because when I got back from my mission from my church, I was like, okay, what's next? What's the next thing? And I knew I didn't want to be in the physical trades anymore because it's just a lot of work. I mean, truthfully, the hardest thing about owning a physical labor company is if employees don't show up, guess who's got to be out there, right?
You got to do the labor.
Exactly. In fact, I'm helping my little brother right now build another one, and he keeps asking me if I could like come and help. I'm like, no, you can't afford me, is what I was telling him. But so I'm such a jerk to him. Anyways, but he's out there crushing it right now. But he's probably going to listen to this and just laugh at me. But anyways, but that was kind of that moment for me where I decided, I'm going to go into a business where I can focus on training, on honestly just helping businesses, because that was really my big goal. Is I'm like, I don't want to work with consumers anymore. It just, I don't know if
I
you've
want
ever done
to.
a consumer facing business.
I
Okay.
ran a state farm agency once upon a time, and
So
yeah,
the concern
B2C
is
was a
petty.
very
I think
different experience.
yeah, it is. Truthfully, like I love the consumer markets, but it's just not my jam. It's not my cup of tea. So
Yeah,
we've ultimately I just have a hard time dealing with the customer because I'm like, this is so petty. So I always just err on the side of refunding people if they don't like those products
yeah,
and services.
yeah,
And with businesses, it's just a different game because they've got money. right? They've got access to people to be able to implement on this on what you do. So I built my next company was a Facebook ads agency. And that one we built word of mouth, but it was that one was not my best one. I will tell you, that one was a really hard business. I almost had to close the door. So I sold that one for very, very little. But then the next two companies, I did a roll up, which was, if you're familiar with the concept, buy a bunch of smaller companies and then sell them off. And between the Facebook agency and my last two companies was, I started studying Roland Fraser, Carl Allen. I don't know if you know either of those guys, but
the M&A strategy makes sense then.
absolutely. And what was interesting though is I did one roll up and I was like, this isn't for me.
Okay, can we hang on the roll up for a second then? Because
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised and shocked that that's your reaction to the roll up. Now I haven't done any roll ups myself, but for everyone listening, watching, roll up is simply like you were saying a little bit earlier, you're buying a bunch of companies in like a particular industry, and the portfolio as a whole gets to represent the total volume. And so that
Right.
poses a higher multiple or higher value, which is why the strategy becomes interesting. It basically allows you to not have to, number one, build a company from scratch, which
Right.
I don't know that I'll
Huge and
do that again.
attractive. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, but and so you get to, that's one like speed hack, and then the other is by combining it, 1 + 1 starts to equal 11 when talking to private equity or venture capital, and there's some different strategies. So
Right.
this is the roll up strategy that Josh went down, but you're saying after you did it, and it sounds like successfully, like you made money
Yeah.
doing it, you're like, not for me. Why is that?
So two things. I tried to do it the seller finance route, which means
Mm,
basically zero money down. And just between you and me, I'm like, it's doable, but it's kind of like the zero money down real estate deals, right? Where you're like, you can do it, but it's just easier if you have money. Like, and I know that sounds bad, but it's
it's
like,
not as interesting because you're getting potentially paid per month,
yeah,
per quarter over time,
yeah,
versus like, all right, here we go. Here's some value. I can see it.
right. Here's the actual value. And like, truthfully, it feels kind of weird. Like the strategy, I learned so much from it and actually gleaned a lot from. That's where our
Mm,
mastermind came from with the Pantheon, is like, we basically do a roll up, but without buying the companies. So we get a bunch of us together and we all kind of vertically integrate, like I talked about earlier, cross sell, and that allows you to scale each company by 20 to 40%, like overnight, right? And that's
amazing.
kind of the idea with a roll up, is each company you cross sell and the entire value of the company will at least double, theoretically, in like 30 to 60 days. And with us, when we did ours, it was just, I mean, it was painful trying to get people to actually close on the businesses. So like, to execute on that strategy, you've got to be cruising. I mean, you've got to be checking deals like daily until you get, like, talking to people about buying their company daily until you get the ones
Yes.
you want. And so I don't think I did it fast enough. But ultimately, when we took that company, we started doing the cross referral strategy. And that was really when I started flushing this out of the growth model, leveraging referrals. And we were able to sell the company, but because it was seller finance, I mean, it was a win. I mean, we made a couple $1,000,000 off of it, which was great. But
Congrats, man.
yeah,
That's a great one.
thanks. But, I mean, I was going for like the $100 million exit,
Yeah.
right? So it just felt
You
like
don't
a
do a
complete
roll up
loss.
being like, I really hope I walk away with a couple mil here.
Exactly. Yeah. Cause you're
Yeah,
like, yeah, no, that's
not the
like buying
goal.
like 30 homes, 40 homes and going, hey, I'm going to try and make, a couple $1,000s off of this. Right. That's just
Can't wait.
not
Who's
what you
in?
want. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like first world problem. So I'm trying not to like come across as like
It's
braggadocious with it, but
it's just keeping like, when you're doing this strategy, context matters. Like when you're
yeah,
thinking this strategy, that is not even close to what the goal is. So no,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not taking it remotely close to that. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I hope your listeners aren't. I will, because what I'll tell people is that there's a lot of heart behind business that a lot of people miss out on, and that
Yeah.
if you actually pay attention to the people and you focus on the big problems, right, solving bigger problems or more urgent problems, you'll make more money. And
Yeah.
ultimately, in the transition to where I did the roll up, I built it already having a buyer for it. He told me, he's like, hey, if you could do this, I will buy it for at least X amount of dollars. And we
Yeah.
got X, and we were hoping for Y, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he bought the company, and then the next business I started, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to build it because I think I can build revenue wise faster than buying the businesses. And this is why I've really doubled down on this referral strategy and built my seventh company, lucky number 7. Probably will never believe this one, just so you know. This is my Alex Ramosi company, right?
It's home. It's home.
It's exactly. Like I've really figured out what model works, and then also knowing that, hey, if we do the referral strategy correctly, we can build $1 million company in 30 to 60 days, right? Mm-hmm. And that's knowing that is, it's like I couldn't buy a business in 30 to 60 days, right? So I'd have to find one that has at least 40% profitability with a massive track record, not a super complicated process. And anyway, so it's really what it comes down to is it's really just math. And the last company I sold was a podcast production company, and it was literally just referral by referral by referral. And we built it in about 1.5 years and sold it for multiple million. And I was like, okay, I get it, but I'm going to help other people do it now because it's just,
yeah. So it's like a whole roll up, or just build one company and sell it for probably more than the whole entire. Yeah. So what I hear you saying in describing this is just the journey of being an entrepreneur. Like, not one person or like entrepreneur is wired to cover every function of a business.
Right.
Sales, marketing, onboarding, operations. If you're in tech, like a developer, and then retention is a whole nother. So it's like finance. There's all the different buckets of like running a company. I've yet to meet any great company that I'm like, this is a really solid company despite size, and being like, oh wow, like this person is like good at everything. And even if they are, they don't even want to be.
Right. They're miserable if they are, because they're wearing 25 hats. Yeah.
That's something that I wish I knew or understood. Like, I was so blind to, if I knew what entrepreneurship was in the beginning, I probably wouldn't have done it. It's like, I got this great idea, Josh. You know what? Screw working for somebody else for 40 hours. How about I go work for 80 hours and make less money? Let's go.
Yeah, and make half the money.
This is a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
But eventually you figure it out, and you build skills and you build team, and what you're describing is you find your way and your path. I'm hoping that someone listening and watching this to right now, they're receiving permission to just be like, I already know what I'm good at in business. I already know what part of the business I want to spend my time in, and they're just receiving permission to just stay there and thrive there. And that even goes into what industry you're in and what type or model of business you are. Maybe you're crushing in home services, where Josh started out, and you're like, dude, the way I connect with people and labor, like I just feel more like myself. Cool. I've got multiple friends that have multiple location of, home service business, a great market to go win in if it's a great fit for you and your personality and skill set. And, there might be people where that's not the right fit. Like for yourself, Josh, you finally found your fit. How does that impact your energy levels in running a business?
Oh man, that's an awesome question. I've found that most people talk about the journey, right? Of like it's about the journey and being happy. And I truthfully still have not found that like peace with myself. Because it's funny to like, you come on a show like this and you go, oh, like here's all my successes, but you're like, all of those felt like failures at the time, truthfully.
It's like, it's a success while you're getting, kicked in the, and then punched.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like, you're like, no, I feel great. This is amazing.
Yeah. Like this is fantastic. Yeah. And what was funny though, is I know for myself, so through the last 4 companies, actually, I've been running a mastermind, and it's always just been around, like it's always changed. The theme of the mastermind changed every year, because I was like, it's just following my journey, and I wanted to learn with others. And but it was funny. When was it? 2.5 years ago now?
Yeah.
We had just done a big merger with that podcasting company. And then 4 months into it, both companies realized this is a bad idea. Let's not do this. And so we actually unmerged. And it was kind of one of those like come to Jesus moments where you're like, man, this is hard. This is hard. Am I doing what I want to do? And we sat down with me, and I had 2 partners at the time. We both sat down, and we all went on a little trip together, and we're like, we need to figure out who we are, what we want to be, and it was really interesting because all three of us took different paths. So my brother was one of my partners in those, and he decided, he's like, dude, I'm just done with the entrepreneurship game. He's like, we've made good money. I'm just going to chalk it up as a win and I'm going to move on. And so he did. So he moved on, got a job, and he's loving it, like absolutely loving it. And for me, I was like, dude, I just love the mastermind. I love teaching and training. I've been doing it for almost a decade at this point. I'm like, why don't I just like double down on that? And then my other partner, who funny enough is like Mr. CPA, right? He had a CPA, very technical. He is now the CEO of my company that we run, the Pantheon right now. Amazing. And I'm just the dancing monkey. So like, I get to go out and do the stuff that I like, clang the cymbals and go, oh, this is amazing. That's what we're doing. And
he's actually wearing tap shoes right now. Everyone can't see that.
Literally. And my last name's Tapp, so that makes it even easier.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. But I love the training and the teaching side. And ultimately, it's fun when you can turn a business into almost a philanthropic effort, because you're getting both the scoreboard win of the money, but you're also getting the energy, like you said, of feeling like you're actually giving back. And so what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to shift the industry, because ultimately my number one beef is that I know pretty much all the big marketers that we've met them through either paying them or, masterminds or whatever. And they all pitch these models for selling B2B services, right? For high ticket services of, hey, have lead gen, or run ads, do a webinar, do all this stuff. But the problem is there's significant barrier to entry on that, and skill level discrepancies is ultimately what I'll say. Because I remember the first time I tried to record a webinar, and I tried to do it evergreen because I was too scared to do it live. And so it took me like 600 takes to do the first intro for the thing. It was crazy. I spent 4 or 5 days trying to make this, and ultimately gave up. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to find a different way. And I'm super glad I did, weirdly enough, give up on that strategy. But I'm watching all of these agencies, coaches, consultants, B2B SaaS companies, right? And they're out there trying to leverage these strategies and just failing miserably. Miserably. And the average coach consultant agency is usually sitting at like $100,000 a year in revenue, not even in take home pay. Wow. And it's like, I watch that and I go, man, like you could do that in a month with referrals. Right. And so we're ultimately, that's the goal of the Pantheon, is to shift that industry and help move all of these people who really truly are just being misled. And I don't think it's intentionally, but I think they're being misled into what can work. And again, not to say those things can't work. It's just a massive barrier to entry with money and or skill. And we're trying to remove that as a factor and say, here's a really easy strategy. It can literally cost you $0 to start doing referrals. And it's something that can scale quick enough that you could go straight into a sales team and get out of the sales side, which is what all coaches and agencies want to do, is they're like, I want out. And so I kind of teased this earlier, but it's about solving bigger problems and more urgent problems. And with the Pantheon, we identify like, what is it that we need to do? What's a big problem where people are desperately seeking for a solution to, and a quick solution, right? We have the key, right? Because SEO is another option here. I'm going to say it, but it's a year or 2 years, a whole lot of work. And it's like, we have a quick strategy. Yeah.
You will spend time, you will spend money, acquiring, new customers. And when there's a couple models that are coming to mind, that you're describing, and I'm like, I literally look at it. And if you have to put your whole, again, it's not bad. Of course it works. But if you have to map out all the different steps on a freaking workflow thing versus just ask for some referrals at the end of a call. I don't know. You tell me which one's harder.
Right. And you can come sell for me if you want, Chris. That was very adequately put.
Hey, that's how it goes. So if you're listening, watching this, you're leaning in, you're like, dude, I need Josh on tap, and all his knowledge. Where can we find you, Josh?
Well, first off, I am totally going to start a new podcast with that name. That is brilliant. Josh on Tap.
Hey, I try to be the gift that keeps giving, Josh.
You really are, dude. That's like the third thing. I'm going to have to go listen to this so I don't forget that. So the best place to connect with me, and I know this is going to sound really weird, but I'm going to give your audience my number.
Let's go.
Feel free to text me. Okay. This is my personal number on my phone.
Okay, hold
So
on. I'm
number's
gonna write it down real quick.
yeah, go for it. So it's 208-206-4652.
There you go. You
I'll
got it.
repeat it
There's a,
again.
you can just
208. Oh, good.
don't say.
I'll repeat it. We're good. Okay. So 208-206-4652. By the way, this is a lesson I learned from a billionaire. He was one you guys would recognize his name. Sitting down with him, and he's like, I just got the opportunity to interview him, and through his team, we sat down afterwards. He's like, hey, let me give you my number. I'm like, of course, let's do it. Right. So I grabbed his number, and he's like, yeah, I was like, I have a lesson. He tells me, I have a lesson for you. You've never asked me for my number, and you've never given me your number. Why? He pretty much like made fun of me. So he basically made me, he's like, from now on, you have to commit to giving your number out. He's like, I promise you, it will never be abused. And dude, I've spoken on stages. I've given this away to thousands of people. Never once has it been abused. It's crazy. I think people forget that people are desperately seeking connection and everybody's a little bit too scared to talk to you. If you're the person speaking from stage, so, hey, don't be scared. Text me. I'm a normal human being. I live in Idaho, for crying out loud, guys. I mean, we're about as approachable as they come. We're like the Canada of America, right? That's what we say, or of the US, excuse me. But anyways, the point here is giving your number out is hugely valuable, but feel free to text me. I'll happily connect you with our people. LinkedIn's probably the other best place to find me at this point. But I mean, if you have my number, why LinkedIn me? So
there you go. Lead with the number. People, it's so funny. People ask me, so, oh, do you have a business card? I'm like, no, I haven't had a business card in a decade.
yeah,
But it ends up here anyway. So let's just like text each other. And
exactly.
no, that's really interesting. That number one, someone that like has a lot of attention. Yes, billions, money, but like, as a person of influence, where that really could be taken advantage of. It brings a lot of credibility to like, yeah, it does. That's not how it really works. And so don't be so afraid, like throw it out there. That's really cool. I haven't heard that before, man. Hey, so as we wrap up here, man, to put yourself out there, to keep creating, you've been through ups and downs. You shared some of them today. I'm always fascinated by people that continue to stay in the arena. They keep fighting, and I get curious on what drives them. So Josh, what drives you?
I think impact definitely is a good word for it. But if I were to give you like my like true root desire is like, I want to shift industries. Like that's something to me, like literally do something that leaves a legacy versus just collecting my money and walking. Right. And I know there's a lot of people out there who think, think what you will about like Elon Musk, right? But I'm a big fanboy of Elon Musk. But he's
hilarious, man.
He's hilarious and freaking brilliant. But and a lot of people hate him, and that's fine. But what I love about him is that he makes decisions for the betterment of mankind, and not for the money, and not for the fame. And that I love that, first off. But I've watched this with multiple other people that you may not even know their names, and they've literally, I mean, you're using products because of them. You've, shifted the way you live your life because of these people, and you'll never know their name. And it's so cool to see that when people have been able to do that. Right. And so I look at it of it's about really shaping humanity versus, just making money at this point. So, that's really kind of what motivates me now. And then, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that the scoreboard is addictive, right? And so being able to get those wins consistently is a it's an addiction, but it's also, I think it's a healthy one in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it seems like you're processing it a really solid way, man. Josh, I appreciate you spending the time and giving away some of the goods to our audience today, man.
You bet, man. Great questions, and I'm totally going to steal that name, Josh on Tap.
You heard it here first. Hey, I appreciate all of you as well for listening, watching, your time and attention. One thing that I really hope for you for this episode is that you leave encouraged to ask. You know what you need, you know what you want and where to go, and it's okay just to ask and have a system and do it consistently. Josh gave you a great framework to do it with ease, in a very natural way. I'm excited, to see what that'll do for you. Hopefully it's a huge blessing, just like the future content where we're finding real entrepreneurs that are getting real results. And we'll see you back here on the next one.